I was 6 years old in Salt Lake City with all my brothers, and I studied with a guy named Harold Wolf, who was the concert master of the Utah Symphony, and then he was the concert master of the San Diego Symphony. And then when I was in 6th grade, I guess that made me about 12, I started playing upright bass. And I played that for a while. And then this beer came along, and no. Played upright bass for a while, and then I heard Hendrix and Zappa, believe it or not, and I decided to play electric bass, so I bought an electric bass. And I started playing that when I was about 16, I guess. I'm 44 now, so the math is up to you to figure out. This is not going to work. So, I ran away and joined the circus. No, when I was 17, I ran away and joined the rock band. It was called It's a Beautiful Day. You ever heard of them? Remember that song that went, White bird in a golden cage, bling, 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 bling. It had a violin. All right, you ready? Wait a second. Hit pause. It's a Beautiful Day. And I stayed with that band. I did 2 records with that band, and then I went to the University of Utah for 1 year, and then I went to New York and I played with what was his name? I played with a trumpet player who died right after that. I played with Watrous there. I played with a guy named Enrico Rava. I don't know if you know who that is. And just various goofy jazz things in New York. Then I moved to San Francisco, and I played in a bunch of bands out there. Nothing spectacular. And then I sort of went back to violin, quit playing bass. I was a lost soul. I had a kid. I was like 20 years old with a kid. And then Bruce called me up, and I auditioned for Frank, and somehow I got the gig. I hadn't even been playing bass. I guess he got sick of looking for a bass player, so he said, okay, I'm sick of it, you're it.
So what, this happened in 1973?
This was in 73. Yeah. So I guess I was 21.
So how was the audition?
It was very simple. They just had me play a couple of odd meter things and groove for a while. He says, okay, that's it. I'm through looking, but it was a really good band. Ruth Underwood and George Duke, Jean-Luc Ponty, and Ralph Humphrey. He auditioned too. He got the gig.
I played with Ralph. Very good.
Right. He's in town.
Yeah.
And then I just did Frank stuff for a few years. Then I went on a tour. I broke my hand in the middle of the tour. That sort of was my downfall. I broke this bone. We were playing football, and I broke a bone right in the middle of the tour in Dayton, Ohio. And so I stayed on the band and directed. I had all the notes on the keyboard. You ever heard of that? I had like A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, or D flat, D, E, F. You know. And I would point to them with a chemical wand. You know, the things that break and they glow in the dark.
Yeah.
And then we'd have the one horrible bass player after another would try to do it. There was no way. I was trying to count them into D flat, you know. And all this odd meter stuff was going by super fast. It was a hard book, you know. There was no way these guys could have done it that way. They would have had to know the music. I tried to get Abe Laborio to do it. He was in Boston, and he came over into my hotel room for a while, and we tried it, and then he passed. I don't know why. He could have done it, you know. He was a good enough player to do it, I think. But it was just too much, too fast, you know.
He was not a beat at the time. He learned how to read later. He has a great ear.
Who, you, Abe?
Abe, yeah.
Well, we rehearsed, with Frank, we were on a salaried rehearsal schedule about a month before every tour, and he would change all the music around, you know. Like I remember, for instance, with Village of the Sun, you know that song? He turned it into a country western tune after a while. Oh, and, you know, that kind of thing, you know, and he would do that with all the stuff. Inca Roads was a. When we first started playing that, was an instrumental that went dun 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 dun, real slow like that.
Yeah.
And it turned into what it is today.
Arthur Barrow also wanted to say hello to you.
No, I saw Arthur last night.
You were his idol because you played that difficult line in A Kidnapped Hour.
Yeah, he learned all that stuff. He can play all that stuff.
So how did you find him when you had to play that stuff? So how was it?
What, to play?
Yeah.
Well, when I started doing it, not many guys were doing it, you know. I mean, he was experimenting. You know, we did a tour with the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and we took turns being the headliner. And I remember we were playing at the Spectrum in Philadelphia, right, which is a basketball arena, and upstairs, our dressing rooms were upstairs. And I was down there listening to Mahavishnu, and I go upstairs, and there's Frank writing odd meter tunes on the spot that were heavily influenced by McLaughlin's stuff, you know. Just, you know, you immediately saw all these new opportunities to do stuff, and you just started doing it. And that, actually, when I was in It's a Beautiful Day, we did a Live at Carnegie Hall album. And Mahavishnu opened up for us. Nobody had ever heard of him, right? We had no idea that they existed. And it was the band with Billy and all those guys, you know, Jan Hammer and Gary Goodman and all those guys. So we go into it was at Carnegie Hall in New York. We go into the backstage, and all of a sudden we hear this shit, man. And nobody could believe it. In fact, the rest of the guys in the band had no idea what they were doing. I was a good enough musician to, like, hear odd meter stuff, but nobody was doing it at that time, you know. And then, you know, it was a total freak out, and they blew us completely away. We were the headliner. They destroyed us. And I remember that there was this one guy, this gigantic black guy, who was asleep, and he was like draped over 3 rows of seats, right in the middle of the auditorium, so you couldn't help but see him, right? During our whole set, he slept through the set. It was just nerve-wracking as hell, you know, because these guys came out unbelievably great, and then we come out and do our stupid shtick, you know. It was pathetic, and that was the first time I ever saw those guys. Although I knew about McLaughlin from Tony Williams' Lifetime stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that was the early experimental version of that. Jack Bruce was in that, and you know, but Frank was heavily influenced by that stuff. And
also the band was competitor.
Well, we were both 2 of the best bands, we thought anyway at that time. You know, I mean, we matched up pretty good. I matched up okay with Rick Laird, you know, and Jan Hammer and Duke matched up pretty good. I don't think Jean-Luc was in the band then, but he would have matched up with Jerry Goodman, you know. So we had, you know, Frank didn't really match up with McLaughlin because they're totally different players, you know. But Frank could do stuff, you know, in his guitaristic way. He was just totally unique, you know. He used to tell me that he would sit there and close his eyes and see his solo written out in his mind. You could close his eyes, and there's his solo written out as he played it in like space, you know. When you're on stage and you're looking in, you got spotlights in your eye. It's black, you know. There's the light, and then there's space. It's kind of like being in outer space. You're flying around the planet. All of a sudden, there's a star sitting there, you know? And then there's space around it. You know what I mean? So he would look up into the space and see his solo while he was playing. I don't know if that's true. He told me that. What?
Did you do any bass solos?
He gave me a few solos. He gave me a couple of violin solos too, believe it or not. The last gig of a tour, we were in, I think we were in, where the hell were we, Boston or someplace like that. And he made me sit in the lotus position and play a violin solo on stage. Because I was like a yoga freak in those days. Me and Ralph Humphrey used to play lotus football, lotus soccer. I invented this game called lotus soccer, and you had to play it in the lotus position. You just had a soccer field. We both got into the lotus position, and that's the only way you could move. You had to stay in the lotus position all the time. Your legs locked in the lotus. And then we used one of those little squeeze coin purses for the ball and just whacked it all over the place. It was fun. Those times were fun as hell.